one video that I found of him in Czech, and he's training, and he does 10 exercises. He does this all the time. 10 exercises where he has that weight vest, got the ankle weights, and he does 10 reps of these. They don't look exhausting, but even if you do it without the weight vest and you go half-assed, you can't breathe,
man. Yeah.
So he was going through these 10 drills that were absolutely like you wouldn't want to do it. And then he does things like shooting pucks. So when he does the practice stuff, he calls them pancakes. So they're about the size of this. 1 sec. Right? And they're like weighted. So I'd say they're probably a pound or pound and a half. And he gets passes and he shoots with them and keeping his hands in front and he shoots them just feels like that's better for him. What I like about this is it's all self-driven. So when we're kids or we're players, most of us have to be told and coaxed and, don't do too much, don't do this. I'm not saying this is right. What I love about it is that he would listen to his body and he would say, I need this. I need to dial in this piece or else I don't feel good. So he made drills up. And he said, I've never had a trainer. He goes, I make drills up that I feel are going to benefit me. So it reminded me of like when I was a kid. I'm not Jaromir Jagr. It reminded me of myself that I used to have a really good intuition on what I could do to help myself. So I would train and shoot pucks and I'd ask questions, right? If it felt right, it was right. And if it didn't, I'd like, okay, I don't like that. So that was kind of cool. When he was playing the NHL, he was able to score goals like in close and all that kind of stuff at first. But once there was a turning point, he was 34 years old, he said. And he said he didn't have a good one-timer. He goes, he realized he needed it because the game changed and it was a lot faster and time and space was taken away. So he goes, at 34 years old, I didn't have a really good one-timer, so I started working on it, and I'm pretty good at it now. But really cool because he put the time in, recognized there's a deficiency, and he just now I need to do one-timers and get good at it. So the pucks come off the stick real one. Neat things that he did a lot of one-handed stick handling with those heavy pucks. So he'd do something maybe just on his forehand the whole time, one-handed shooting and stuff because it really makes sense. And you notice that when I do stick handling, I don't know if you've been out to a lot of those where I do a lot of the one-handed stuff to get your top hand control. Yeah, I used to do it with you. Top hand control to get used to that. One of the things I liked about it because it's something that I teach the kids. I was just saying this to a kid last night. He uses the heavy pucks for shooting, like the heavy pucks. And he said, the reason I do this is because I find a lot of guys bring their hands back. And it don't seem so simple, but people don't do it. He goes, when people bring their hands back and they wind up on a wrist shot or whatever, he goes, and when you do that, the goalies can see it and you don't have enough time and space. So he practices with those heavy pucks, hands in front, and just snapping. So at any point, the puck is on a stick and off it goes. Yeah. And if you ever watch some of his games now, if you see him in the offensive zone, stick is always on the ice, and he's trolling around like this, waiting for pucks, so that when it comes on when it's on a stick, it comes off as fast as it got there without thinking, right? So it's a trained thing. So the other thing is I wanted to say about that is many people look for guidance on how to do things, but a lot of the times, if you can just go inside yourself and find a way to make yourself better. Yeah. And again, I'm so impressed by it because he didn't do this for a month or a year or a week or a minute. He dedicated his whole life to, I need to be better. Yeah. And doing things hard for a long period of time. And I just think it's cool. A lot of people, I don't even know how many people would even come close to doing even a little bit of that for that period of time. Yeah. So anyways, I digress.
Yeah. I'm going to link to that video actually that you showed me yesterday, because it was cool to see like the training method. So a couple of things just to sharpen up I think what your point is on that is this is stuff that worked for him. And like you said, It's not that necessarily this is what you have to do. It's like last week we were talking about McDavid using PEP and Matthews using 3-on-3 and whatever. Like these are just things that really good players used as tools. So you can look at them, but you have to keep in mind it wasn't just this that made them what they are. So we're not saying you have to go skate around with a 40-pound weight vest for your practice every time.
No, it might even hurt you.
Yeah, it might even be too much. Yeah. But I think the important thing to pull out of this is he had that mindset of asking questions and figuring out what he needed to do and why really early on. Yeah. He started to ask why about things really early on. And one of my favorite examples you use for yourself is you would use that story about when you would shoot pucks, and if one would come off really nice, You would say, oh, like, why did that come off the stick
Yeah.
nice? Like, what did I do there that made it work?
Yeah.
And he's just demonstrating a lot of that. It's a lot of that. It's like, okay, so I can see the game is changing. I don't have a one-timer. It would be much better to have a quicker shot that I can get off fast and hard than, that usual Jagr style.
Yeah.
Turn back and forth figure eights in the corner for 5 times until you can walk out and get a shot or whatever,
Right.
Because the game is different.
Yeah.
So I think what people can take from looking at a guy like this is, one, that dedication piece, of course, and doing, what he felt was necessary to keep himself sharp and able to play. And whether or not it was too much, it's like the guy's still 50 and he's playing. It's like,
He could be a freak.
That means something. Yeah. But it means something,
But he built himself a base.
Right. So this is
really young.
So this is what I mean. And all of the training stuff he did, the other thing I want to point out is it wasn't just a mindless beatdown all the time.
Right.
He like, some of it could seem that way, where it's like, yeah, I was using a 40-pound weight vest and I would bag skate myself and I would run down the hallway, drag my coach. Those parts of the training were a beatdown. But then he would work on his one-timer or stick handle with one hand, or he was doing things that were thoughtful actually to make himself better, not just beat down every time he was doing any kind of training.
Yeah. So one of the things, I'm going to dial it back a little bit here. The one realization he had was, I need to be very strong, but not bench pressing. He said never doesn't do that. Yeah. He knew that his hips down needed to be just really strong, especially for the way he played. So he identified the way he played, and he knew that base was going to be good along the boards, that long body. Yeah. I can separate pucks, players, right? So that was one. And then like you said, he didn't just do beatdown. So he was just showing some of the stuff he did. Like, he would break down some of the moves, how he played. So he's really into how he, obviously, which is good. He's really into, this is how I play. I need to train for how I play, not the way.
That's right.
Not the way Mario plays.
Yeah.
Right. So he would break down, okay, I've got a long reach, and let's say this one-on-one move, I come in, go to my backhand. He was a left-hand shot. So he goes, I'm big, I can get wide, I'm long. So if I can get long and then use my strength to shield a guy off, and watch how many goals he scored like that. But he did it in slow motion and slow as smooth as fast, with a real purpose. He would do things along the wall and where he'd bounce pucks off, and he'd already have his separation speed or separation from people with his big ass out there, and work on those moves. Those aren't really fast moves or fast drills. They're just thought methodical and applicable to the game.
Yeah, that's right. And
building habits.
And that's what I want the takeaway to be from the story you're telling. Because obviously, like, anyone who's amazing or has some kind of elite, whether it's a training thing or someone who has an elite mindset about something, those things are amazing. And you can get sucked into watching it as entertainment, like, wow, this is so amazing. But there's a lesson that you can pull. And the lesson is exactly what you're saying. It's you figure out how you play, and then what you're doing when you're making drills and training stuff, the way to make it individual to you is by identifying specifically where you need the work. And that's what he was doing. Whether it was his conditioning and strength, which is definitely a component of it, or whether it was skills in the corners, picking pucks up off the wall, puck protection, making sure each arm was individually strong enough to handle the puck on its own. Like, these are all things he identified that work with his type of game. And that's what anybody can do. That anybody can analyze their own game and figure out which things they need to work on. And then he had the intelligence enough to develop his own drills. But luckily for people today, is you don't have to be smart enough to develop your own drills. You can go look up drills that are applicable to you in whatever situation. So you don't necessarily even have to have that creative piece where you are just smart enough to figure out the drill you need to do, or to plan the drill you need to do. You can just go find one. Yeah. But it does take that critical thinking. We always talk about that self-awareness to be able to analyze and then go and do it for yourself, Yeah.
And that's something Dalton was very good at, Dalton Pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even he'd do those hard ass workouts and skate and all that stuff, but he was like, okay, I need to have stronger hands. If I fight, or I need grip strength and all that kind of stuff. And prevent them from breaking and all that stuff. So he had the rice bucket. He would do that, and he would do. He was showing us stuff with the fingers, how to build the arms, and they're burn, and you're doing absolutely nothing. Just right. But and then his thought process was about how the neurons from the brain to the outer limits of your
That's right.
of your extremities and
Yeah.
all that stuff never get touched. And he goes, if you don't work these things, this is an intelligent guy.
Right.
These are guys that think, and then they always will have an advantage on you because they're in endless pursuit of excellence, and it's impressive.
Yeah. And for a guy like Dalton, it was the exact same thing. He was doing things that were applicable to him, that he needed for himself, the way
Yeah.
he played his style.